There is a leaf growing across the jungles of southern Mexico that contains more protein per gram than beef when dried. It outperforms chicken, eggs, and every leafy green sold in any Western grocery store. Ancient Mayan healers ate it every single day, and entire civilizations fed millions of people on it for 3,000 years. Then it vanished from every nutrition textbook on Earth. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly which plant this is, why it was buried, and how to grow it yourself for the cost of a single stem cutting. Think about what you were taught in school about the ancient Maya. You learned about pyramids. You learned about calendars. You learned about a civilization that mapped the stars with mathematical precision. But nobody ever told you what they ate. Nobody told you how a population of 7 to 11 million people survived in dense tropical lowlands where European crops would later fail and cattle could not graze. The answer was not corn alone. It was not beans alone. It was a leaf. In every dooryard garden across the Yucatan Peninsula, from the limestone hills of Campeche to the coastal flats of Belize, a tall, woody shrub grew beside every family home. It reached 6 to 10 feet high. Its broad green leaves spread wide enough to fill a dinner plate. And every morning, someone in the household walked outside, stripped a handful of leaves from the branches, and boiled them for the first meal of the day. When Spanish chroniclers arrived in the 1500s, men like Diego de Landa documented what they found in Maya settlements. Organized gardens, diverse crops, and everywhere they looked, this same tall shrub with large lobed leaves growing within arm's reach of the kitchen. The Spanish wrote about it in their reports. They noted that families harvested it daily. They described how the Maya boiled the leaves and ate them wrapped in tortillas alongside beans and squash. The plant was not a side dish. It was the center of the plate, the primary source of protein in a civilization that had no cattle, no sheep, no goats, and no chickens. Here is where things get uncomfortable. Those leaves contain roughly 5 to 8 grams of protein per 100 grams of fresh weight. When dried, the concentration climbs dramatically. The iron content reaches levels that rival beef liver. The calcium content exceeds milk gram for gram. The vitamin C concentration is 2 to 3 times higher than an orange. And unlike almost every other leafy green on the planet, this leaf contains all essential amino acids. That makes it a complete protein from a leaf, not a seed, not a grain, not an animal product. A leaf that grows on a shrub in your yard. Western nutrition teaches that leaves are fiber and micronutrients. Salad greens, side dishes, garnish. This plant breaks that rule entirely, and the Maya did not need a laboratory to figure it out. They had 3,000 years of observation, 3,000 years of feeding their children, their builders, their priests, and their warriors with this single crop. They knew what worked. Now there is one thing you need to understand about this plant, and I am going to be direct because this matters. Raw chaya leaves contain cyanogenic glycosides that release toxic hydrogen cyanide when chewed or crushed. Boiling the leaves for 15 to 20 minutes volatilizes and inactivates these compounds completely. This is not unusual. Cassava feeds 800 million people across the tropics and has the same requirement. Kidney beans are toxic when raw. Lima beans contain similar compounds. Cooking is not a disqualifier. It is standard practice for dozens of staple foods that humanity depends on every single day. You simply boil the leaves. Always cook them in stainless steel or enamel pots. Never eat them raw, and avoid unlined aluminum, which can react with the cooking liquid. And the result is one of the most nutrient-dense foods ever documented. For 3,000 years, this plant fed one of the most advanced civilizations in the Western Hemisphere. Then a different civilization arrived, and within 2 generations, the plant began to disappear. When Spain established colonial control over the Yucatan in the 1500s and 1600s, the agricultural transformation was systematic. European crops replaced indigenous ones. Wheat was imposed where native grains had thrived. Cattle were introduced onto land that had supported polyculture gardens. Sugarcane took the best soil. The colonial economy needed crops that could be taxed, exported, measured, and controlled. The Maya milpa system, the integrated garden that grew corn, beans, squash, chili peppers, and this protein-rich shrub together in the same plot, could not be taxed efficiently. It could not be exported. It could not be controlled by administrators in distant cities. So it was dismantled, not because it failed, because it could not be owned. The plant retreated to dooryard gardens. Rural Maya families in the Yucatan, in the hills of Guatemala, in the river valleys of Belize kept growing it. Grandmothers kept boiling the leaves every morning. The knowledge never died. It just stopped being written down in the languages that Western science bothered to read. This plant is called chaya. In the Yucatan, they call it tree spinach. In Belize, they call it spinach tree. In Guatemala, they call it che. Botanists have classified it as Conidoscopus aconitiifolius, though older texts use a different species name entirely. 4 names in 4 regions. No unified identity in English. No consistent entry in Western food databases. No recognizable brand. When a plant has no single name, it has no single presence. And when it has no presence, it has no funding. Search PubMed right now. Type spinach nutrition. You will find thousands of studies. Type kale nutrition. Thousands more. Now type chaya nutrition. You will find fewer than 200 results. The ratio is staggering. This is not because spinach is more nutritious. It is not. This is not because kale provides more protein. It does not. This is because spinach and kale have industries behind them. The global leafy greens market is valued at roughly $40 billion annually. Spinach and kale dominate that market in the West. Both are annual crops. Both require replanting every season. Both demand irrigation, fertilizer, cold chain logistics, plastic packaging, and refrigerated trucking from farm to store. Every step in that chain generates revenue. Every step employs suppliers, distributors, packagers, and retailers. $40 billion flowing through a system built on plants that die every year and must be repurchased, replanted, and reprocessed from scratch. Now consider chaya. It is a perennial. You do not replant it. You plant a cutting once and harvest leaves for 50 years from the same rootstock. Some documented specimens in the Yucatan have been harvested continuously for over half a century. No annual seed purchase. No fertilizer required. No irrigation after the first few weeks. No pest management in most conditions. No cold chain because it grows in your yard and you pick it fresh. No plastic packaging. No refrigerated truck. Every single link in the $40 billion leafy greens supply chain is eliminated by one shrub growing beside your kitchen door. The seed industry alone generates $60 billion globally each year. Corn, soy, wheat, lettuce, spinach. All annual crops, all requiring farmers to buy new seed every planting season. The entire business model depends on repetition. Buy again, plant again, buy again, plant again. Chaya does not participate in this cycle. You do not buy chaya seeds. The plant is propagated by cuttings. Cut a branch, stick it in soil. It roots. One neighbor with a chaya plant can supply an entire street. No corporation benefits from that transaction. No quarterly earnings improve. No shareholder value increases. The plant protein supplement market is projected to exceed $20 billion within the next few years. Protein powders, protein bars, protein shakes, all require industrial processing, factory production, marketing campaigns, branded packaging, and global distribution networks. Chia leaves, boiled for 10 minutes in your kitchen, provide complete protein with all essential amino acids. No factory, no brand, no distribution. A backyard shrub that quietly replaces an entire shelf at the supplement store. This is not conspiracy. This is economics. Companies fund research that supports their products. They do not fund research that makes their products unnecessary. Universities pursue grants from the sources that are available. Those sources favor patentable interventions. A perennial shrub propagated by free cuttings cannot be patented. A leaf that you boil in your own kitchen cannot be branded. The funding flows to spinach trials and kale studies and protein powder formulations. The research follows the funding. The knowledge gaps persist. What cannot be owned cannot be sold. What cannot be sold cannot be marketed. What cannot be marketed does not enter consciousness. 3 generations of Western consumers have never heard the word chia, not because anyone hid it, because no one profited from revealing it, and yet the evidence kept appearing. In the 1970s and 80s, agricultural researchers introduced chia to parts of West Africa as a food security crop. In Nigeria, rural families started growing it. They gave it a name that translates roughly to hospital too far. The plant you grow when the clinic is not coming. Protein malnutrition dropped in communities that adopted it. The results were documented. They were real, but no international agricultural research body scaled the effort. The budgets went to improved maize varieties and fortified rice, crops that required new seed purchases, crops that needed fertilizer inputs, crops that kept the funding cycle turning. Meanwhile, in a village outside Merida in the Yucatan, a woman boils chia leaves the same way her mother did, the same way her grandmother did, the same way women in that village have done for longer than any living person can remember. The plant stands beside her kitchen wall. It has been there for decades. It will be there for decades more. You can grow it yourself. Chia thrives in USDA zones 9 through 11 as a permanent outdoor perennial. In zones 7 and 8, you can grow it in containers and bring it inside during winter, or treat it as a warm season annual. The plant does not care about perfect conditions. It evolved in the rocky limestone karst of the Yucatan, where soil is thin and rain is unreliable. It tolerates drought. It tolerates poor ground. It tolerates neglect. Propagation is simple. Take a stem cutting 8 to 12 inches long from an existing plant. Let the cut end dry for a day or two. Push it into soil. Water it lightly for the first few weeks. It roots. Within months, you have a growing shrub. Within a year, you have a productive plant. Within 2 years, you have more cuttings than you know what to do with. 1 plant becomes 5. 5 become 20. A single friend with a chia shrub can start a food system for a neighborhood. Harvest leaves and tender stem tips whenever you need them. The plant responds to harvesting by growing bushier and producing more. The more you pick, the more it gives. Boil the leaves for at least 5 minutes. 10 to 15 is better. Use stainless steel or ceramic cookware. Never aluminum. The cooked leaves taste mild, similar to spinach but slightly richer, slightly more substantial. In the Yucatan, chia con huevo is a daily breakfast for millions. Chia stirred into scrambled eggs with a side of tortillas. Simple, complete, protein-rich, virtually free. You can dry the leaves and grind them into powder. Store it in a jar. Add it to soups, stews, baked dishes, or warm meals, making sure it undergoes a full cooking process before consumption. The protein and minerals survive drying. 1 mature plant produces enough leaves to supplement a household continuously. 3 to 5 plants create meaningful food security. The cuttings propagate so easily that scaling requires nothing more than patience and a few pots of soil. There is no annual cost, no supply chain dependency, no expiration date, no subscription. The plant outlives the gardener. The seed companies will not tell you about this. The supplement industry will not tell you. The leafy greens aisle at your grocery store will not tell you. But right now, at this very moment, in a small garden behind a concrete blockhouse, somewhere in the Yucatan, a grandmother is pulling chaya leaves off the same shrub her own grandmother planted. She boils them in the same kind of pot. She serves them the same way. She has never read a nutrition study. She has never heard of a protein supplement. She does not know that her breakfast contains more complete protein than the expensive powder in a plastic tub on a shelf 6,000 miles away. She does not need to know. The plant knows. It has been growing for 3,000 years. It will grow for 3,000 more. The only question is whether it will be growing in your yard,